It is 4 o'clock, Tuesday, July 9th. We'll call the community safety meeting to order. We have an agenda in front of us. Do we have any omissions, deletions? No? Okay, and, we were going to, or did we refer it on to somebody else?
We're gonna
pedestrian.
Maybe we'll bring it up under manager's report.
Okay, the pedestrian report, we'll add it under manager's report.
Yes. All right, let's add it as an agenda.
Well, 6A, we'll call it 6A pedestrian report.
Is Aaron online?
No, he's not going to be joining us today.
Yeah, not well.
But Councillor Wolf is apparently online with us. Okay, so approval on the amended agenda, 6A, including the pedestrian report. Second, all in favor? Thank you. We have minutes from the last meeting, June 11th. All in favor? Thank you. And our next committee meeting date is September 10th, so it's going to be a long time, so get your words in now. And Community Safety Bylaws Monthly Activity Report, May 2024. Mr. Corrado?
To the chair, I have nothing further to add, and I'm open to questions.
Okay. Anybody?
Yeah, just.
Okay. Councillor Galanders?
Thank you, and through the chair, I just want to make a comment on CS 11 under the property use calls for service. The numbers are so consistent from last year, except the recycling complaints are way down. So does that mean that we're just recycling better? It's good to see that, if that's the case.
Through the chair to Councillor Gunlanders, that could be the case as well. It's typical that when you see a enforcement drive, you see behavior conditioned differently, so we certainly hope so.
That was the main thing that jumped out at me. The other thing, just one more thing, was the signs. The signage offenses were up quite a bit from last year. I noticed there was some complaints on some social media apps about a lot of signs attached to poles right now. Is that what these ones are?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, that certainly does reflect in those numbers. Staff have been working with multiple departments, including the RCMP, Public Works, Corporate Communications, to spread the word about not responding to those ads. So we haven't had any complaints of late, but we did see a bit of a number of influx during that time frame, and it's reflected in those numbers as well.
Okay, and just to follow up, there was a comment on that the majority were the sandwich board signs. Is that in front of the businesses, like the ones in Steveston and stuff again? Or are they more just ones that pop up in front of homes for like things that they shouldn't be advertising for?
Through the chair to Councillor Glanders, sandwich board signs are in front of service businesses, restaurants, and they're prohibited unless, of course, the business is opening for the first time. They're allowed for a certain period, limited period of days. So staff frequently try to proactively go out there and warn businesses before they take enforcement action. And you do see a seasonal effect come out. As the weather's better, these signs tend to pop up.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, we have Councillor Wolf online.
Yes, thank you. I'm using my phone. My iPad wouldn't connect tonight or today. So if you can hear me okay, I just have two questions. They kind of both relate to truck parking on farmland. And I know the city's been well aware of the parking of trucks on Westminster Highway, the property off of Westminster Highway near number 6 Road. I'm just curious where in the ticketing table 1 on page 15 or the revenue on page 16, where does the tickets, where do they factor into these tables? That's my first question.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, where we would see offenses regarding soil-related offenses would be there. In the case of zoning-related offenses, there's a limited number of offenses that are actually ticketable. So those may not be reflected in that table, but what I can attest to is there's enforcement that has continued on the property that you mentioned on number 6 road as well. Those are primarily soil-related offenses.
Okay, then the follow-up on that, if I may, through the chair, is I've heard that the city is fining them whatever the, I think, provincial government allows us to do. So that's, what is it, $1,000 a month or a week? Something like that?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, there's a number of different actions that are underway under, just because an offense is listed in the zoning bylaw that isn't per se ticketable, we can still take long-form prosecution, and we have taken long-form prosecution against that property, and we are continuing to take it. And that is part of the city's bylaw process. That goes to provincial court sometimes in the form of a long-form prosecution or the $1,000 ticket you mentioned, but it's a blend of bylaw ticketing as well as provincial court action that's currently underway regarding that property.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I've heard it referred to as cost of doing business because they can make $200,000 for people parking on their property, and then they're just paying little bits of fine. So, yeah, I really hope we can get the province to assist us with that. My next question through the chair is also in regards to parking. I've heard from 2 different people that said in Delta, you're allowed to park 2 large trucks on per agricultural property, but they weren't quite clear if that has to be ALR or just agricultural zoned property. Do we know about that? And if so, or does Delta have something different that is a non-ALR parking arrangement?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, staff can certainly research and get back to you regarding Delta's policies. We do not allow commercial vehicles on the ALR unless they're associated with a farm operation.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate it if you could get back to us maybe in September or a memo before that. And then, let's see, where did my last one go here? Actually, that's all. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Councillor Heed?
Yeah, just to follow up on Councillor Wolf's inquiry here, and Mr. Crowder, you and I have had a conversation. I believe that property near Westminster and 5 Road, we've had one of the largest fines. I think that was $100,000 for his use of that property. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that is correct.
And that far exceeds any provincial fine that we may get. So I think, we've got a healthy balance here based on what we're doing here. So the prolific offenders that are considered net cost of doing business, if we start looking at fines of in excess of $100,000, and I think it perpetuates from that point forward, it'll be a deterrence, because I have to agree, some of them are just flagrant in what they're doing on it. And I know this is a significant issue for planning and overall for the city to try and find truck parking. And I know Delta has something different. But again, we're also operating under the use of and the assistance of the ALC, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, that is correct. The ALC is the lead agency regarding issues regarding the farm use of that property, and the city has its own process, and we work in tandem, sometimes in parallel investigations.
So I just want to make a comment. I think your people are doing a great job in trying to get a hold of this and hitting the balance that we require. I just want to follow up what Councillor Galanders was talking about, and the fact that we've got people that are pasting, and this morning I saw someone taping a poster to the polls here. And we've had some correspondence from people that are upset because it's being glued onto the poles and it's very difficult to remove. And it's, I believe, in an Asian dialect, the language. So your people have looked at that. Do we have any idea what they're advertising or what they're doing or the specifics regarding what they're asking for?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, fortunately, we have quite a few staff that have Chinese language skills, and they're mostly looking for a variety of different jobs they're advertising for. And we are working with our corporate comms and the RCMP Media Relations Officer to strongly advise the public not to respond to those ads because they could be phishing opportunities. We're not sure entirely if these are legitimate job offers. We suspect they are not.
Well, that's good to hear. And just a bit of a follow-up on that. And maybe you can just give me some information or educate me a bit right now. We have a sign bylaw here, for example. You just can't have, if you're a business, the language that you have in advertising your business cannot be just one dialect, correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, currently we don't have a specific, we encourage businesses to offer signs and a language that's accessible to the public. We don't have a prescription that says that it can't be in a specific language.
No, Cecilia, if you'd like to explain.
It's actually a council guideline that encourage one official language and then you can have a second language, which we have been applying for legitimate signs, but we are talking about illegitimate signs for these ones.
So when we have a legitimate business that's operating here, in essence, they could just have their signage in Cantonese or Mandarin?
We won't approve it because there is a council guidelines that we apply.
So what's our enforcement power?
We won't give them a permit.
You have to have a permit to have a sign in Richmond on your business.
Well, there's several. The point I want to make here is whether they came after we gave the business license or before. I understand that in their application.
Not a business license, we have sign licenses. If you want to put a sign up in front of your business, you have to apply for a sign license.
So what's our enforcement if in fact someone's got a sign license, but it's just in one language?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, if we receive a complaint, staff can look into whether or not the business was going through the process and did receive a legitimate permit for it. There are occasions when there are businesses that have not gone through the necessary permitting process as well. Staff can respond to that complaint. And there are occasions where staff will proactively, as was mentioned before, during seasonal events where there are more abundance of sandwich board signs, we do proactive patrols, but primarily staff respond on a complaint basis.
I think I've straightened this out. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the item. All in favor? Thank you. Touchstone Family Association, Restorative Justice Annual Performance Outcome Evaluation Report for 2023. Douglas Leo. And Judy Valsones.
Oh, hi.
Okay, to the chair, I have nothing to add to the report. I'm open to questions, and I also invited Judy Valsones. She's the executive director for Touchstone Family Association.
Thank you. Did you want to start with something?
I would answer questions if you have questions.
Okay,
Otherwise,
certainly.
no. Thank you.
All right, Councillor McNulty.
Yep. Yeah, thanks very much for the report. This is the most extensive report we've had, and I thank you for it. And I'm a big supporter of restorative justice, and having had used in the schools a number of years ago and knowing the positive effects on it. I have just one question, actually. There's no financial impact. How much do we give Touchstone through the chair for per year for restorative justice?
100,700. Sorry.
Sorry,
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, it's approximately $100,000.
Yeah, okay, that's $100,000, and when was that established?
Through the chair to Councilor McNulty, this is a long-standing program. The city has operating the restorative justice program for as all as I know more than 10 years.
Okay, and we're still, I guess my point here is, given the program and given the extent of the program and the benefits of the program, is there and I'm not sure that we've had any requests from Touchstone, but it's something that I hope that we will continue for the next 10 years, and that we might increase it as we go along with our other programs. I like to think that this is also a city program. It's not just Touchstone. This is a city program. And I'd like staff to look at that and maybe have those conversations, and we increase the fee by the cost of the CPI like we do everything else.
Councillor Heed?
Thank you. If I could just get you to refer to the page where you've got your program stats and the types of offenses. And two that kind of stood out at me and I'm just wondering how in the world this would be part of any restorative justice. And when you talk about sexual assault and grooming, maybe if you could just give me a little bit of an explanation.
Sure. So the crimes are all set forth by the RCMP, but they make a determination that it wouldn't be as serious as a crime as sexual assault itself sounds. It would be probably inappropriate bullying or someone touching inappropriately, but a younger age group. It wouldn't be something very strong, and the victim would be wanting to do a restorative justice process, because that's key to restorative justice. It never happens if a victim, and then their families would be supportive of it. So it's not as like, I have to have the RCMP speak about their crime categories for you, but we don't make the categories. They send a referral with a category, but they've already vetted all of that seriousness.
And, certainly very familiar with when the restorative justice program was started here in British Columbia. And I don't recall those offenses being in there, but the grooming one, do you have any explanation for that? Because when I look at how we talk about grooming in law enforcement, it's very concerning how this would be something in restorative justice.
Again, it would come in through how the RCMP chose to categorize it. But I can tell you they don't send what they would consider to be a very serious offense through to restorative justice. And they would be way better suited to speak to that, but they don't. I mean, because we've had conversations with them about how youth that have constantly gone through the courts and it still doesn't work, why wouldn't you try restorative justice? And from their perspective, because the crime's too serious. So they're very cautious on what they send through restorative justice.
And I'm glad to hear that, but if someone was just looking at your statistics here and you saw something of the nature of sexual assault and grooming, I draw your attention to this because maybe we've got to look at a different category because, certainly they won't have the benefit of hearing your explanation or from the chief's hearing his explanation, but it just want you to make note of that.
Sure, we could speak to the RCMP about that category and if they have another way of capturing that.
Thank you.
Councillor Galanders?
Thank you, and through the chair, thank you for the report, and very familiar with Touchstone and all the work done in Richmond over the years. And I was really impressed with the quality of the apology in the example given in the report. I could see that being really healing for the victim and probably more than what they would get in a court. And I was wondering, through the letter writing, is there like a bit of a rehabilitation process, for further behavior from that person more than they would get in a court as well? Or, as I know in court, sometimes they are also prescribed counseling.
So when they sit in a circle or part of their resolution agreement, they come up the whole circle comes up with what the appropriate restorative measure should be. So when it's something like, we have a youth mentor that civil forfeiture helps fund, that he would work with the young person and continue to do so. Touchstone also has lots of counseling services, as people are aware, and if that person is interested in counseling, they're offered that as an alternative as well. They're also able to join our, right now we have a youth summer recreation program, so they're able to get lots of support that way. And I think part of the key for us with restorative justice is recidivism shows that it's very effective for young people to have to take responsibility as opposed to go to court, where they actually could be in court for years, especially if they could keep pleading not guilty, which often a lawyer would advise them to do, just because they're going to get older and
Right.
they're going to look different. But some city councilors, like Councillor Liu, has actually participated in a circle before. And I know the mayor had participated in a mock forum before when we were doing them, trying to educate how powerful participating in a restorative justice process is.
Yeah, because you have to face it head on and now, as opposed to being able to just kind of kick it down the line.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for this. And, I was looking at it as well and seeing that 78% are male that seem to go through it. And I think we all understand that, depending upon maybe your socioeconomic bracket or other things, sometimes people can either dismiss it entirely and say boys will be boys, and that person also goes through recidivism and does it again, and it escalates. Or they get the book thrown at them and they go to jail, and they end up with the wrong kind of people. And so I think this is that middle ground that really supports people to go through that growth and to understand what they've done and their impact on the victim, and to change their ways without either dismissing it or overreacting it, or not necessarily overreacting, but over penalizing. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Okay. We have a motion on the floor? Second, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3, Richmond Fire Rescue Monthly Activity Report, May 2024. Chief? Sorry?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I have nothing further to add to my report, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, just two quickies here. Page 50, in terms of public service, what does that entail in terms of responses? We had in May this year, we had 127. It was number 2 on the list. What does that mean?
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, the public service bucket is an all-inclusive bucket for a lot of one-offs. So it could be anything from our crew going any time of the day or night to pick somebody up off the floor, put them into bed, help them down a stairwell if the elevator's broken, do a wellness check on somebody for a neighbor, any of those kind of things.
Okay, no, well, that's great. I don't think, we see it there, and it's kind of silent. To let people know we're doing a little bit more than medical, and we do a heck of a lot more. And very often, I don't think the department gets the recognition that it should do. And I just want to publicly state and acknowledge our men and women when they dealt with the train bridge. I think without them, the rest of it would have gone as well. And I hope that they're getting the public acknowledgement. I understand they saved a few other dwellings beside along the bridge. So I'm hoping that we recognize them from council, and I hope you as the chief also recognize them publicly. I think it was extremely important. That was, I won't say one hell of a fire, but on it, I think it brought out, I think. And the numbers on the responding to the overdose and poison incident are remaining constant. So the chair, basically, we don't have a comparison. We just have May. Even I sort of have a chart as we're going along.
Through the chair to Councillor McNulty, it would be difficult to compare at this point whether the numbers are exceptionally variable or if they're consistent over the course of longer term. So this is just a 1-month snapshot at this point.
It'd be interesting to keep a track of it, just to say that we are out there doing that, and the good work that has been offered by. Okay, thank you. That's it from me.
Councillor Heed?
Yeah, just to follow up with Councillor McNulty's comment on the overdose things, I believe it's been pretty well consistent, 7 related to opioids and then several other poisonings. I think you're around 21 or so the last couple of months. Just on that, and the acting chief, the interim chief was here. We were talking about, I believe it was with him, about the number of incidents where there's been an opioid overdose, where your crews were administering naloxone or Narcan. Did we ever come up with that number? Or I know you and I talked about this previously too, whether we were able to come up with the use or EHS, are they doing it or someone else?
Thank you. Yes, through the Chair to Councillor Heed, on page CS 52, and I know it's not co-located with the map, the narrative at the top says that we went through our RMS there, and out of those 7 incidents, naloxone is administered by my crews 4 times. The other times could very well have been self-administered, a bystander, BC ambulance, they may have walked away, any of those other issues.
So when you think of that, 4 times by our crew, that could be, I'm not saying it is, 4 lives saved, so it's great to see. That's, sorry I missed that. I usually don't miss it, Jim, you know that. Now, I want to refer back to that fire we had on River Road in Bridgeport there. Did we ever determine, and I'll get into the conversation, did we ever determine what caused that fire?
Through the Chair to Councillor Heed, you're talking about the rail bridge trestle fire. At this point, we have issued a demolition order to the property owner, which is the province. And unfortunately, after an engineering assessment of the entire site, I can't send investigators onto that site currently because the surface, the underground, the pilings are just too dangerous for people to be walking on. And so right now, we aren't able to complete our investigation. That may change as the demolition goes forward. As all of us know, that once that demolition starts to take place, any evidence that would be available would be more difficult to find.
And the reason why I bring this up is I had a lengthy discussion with the fire commissioner in the province with respect to the increases in fires in SROs in the downtown east side and others. And as you know, the way the drug-addicted individual is consuming their opioids is a little different than the intravenous use. It's freebasing now. And with these lighters that stay on when you click them, and that's why they want to stop, selling those lighters in Vancouver. But he's raising a point, and he was going to have a discussion with the coroner with respect to, do we have a phenomenon that's occurring right now that's leading to the deaths? And I believe in Coquitlam, there was an innocent person that died because the person was consuming their drugs downstairs through the freebase way, and the place caught on fire, and the innocent person upstairs died. And so the reason I brought this, we know in that location on River Road that some of the homeless people do utilize that. We know that some of the homeless people have this acute drug addiction, mental health, whatever issue, and whether that could be the cause of something like this. And I just raise this because I think the fire commissioner, and he's relatively very, very up to date on what is going on. And do we have statistics that are showing that people are dying now because of the fires, because of the way people are consuming their opioids now? Do you have any comments, or have you discussed this at all?
Through the chair to Councillor Heed, I do have some comment on that. We, through my office, are involved with the BC Fire Chiefs Association, and we've been supportive of a province-wide investigation and lobbying towards the provincial government to cease the sale of those kind of lighters to anybody other than perhaps industrial or commercial needs, plumbers, electricians, people that use them for that kind of work. So that work is ongoing. We regularly speak with the fire commissioner almost bi-weekly on these kind of issues, and so he's up to date from many of the larger fire departments in the region here as to what we're experiencing with respect to those lockable lighters, which sometimes is the cause of a fire. I can also say too that our investigation team, anytime we do have a structure fire, will do a thorough cause and origin investigation that has to withstand, sometimes expert testimony and of course an insurance arbitration. And so should there be a cause that is linked to a lighter or any incendiary device, if they can find that and they can prove it and rule out any other reason, that'll be stated in the report that we do file with the Office of the Fire Commissioner and also retain in our records as well.
I just want to raise it so we can keep an eye on this, because if all of a sudden we start getting this population that's utilizing their drugs in this way, it may be another reason why we have to look at some other way of having them consume their addicted drugs. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion. Second, all in favor? Thank you. You have a verbal report for us?
I do not have a verbal report for you today.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thanks for all the work you're doing for the extreme heat preparation you did in May with Vancouver Coastal Health, the library, and the community services, because it seems to me it's probably activated right now.
It is, and sprayers are on, yes. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you. RCMP monthly activity report, Chief Superintendent Dave Chauhan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I don't have anything to add to the report. Happy to take any questions.
Cool. Councillor Heed?
Yes, Chief, the auto thefts increased in May substantially. Is there any explanation? I noticed you've indicated there's no patterns or trends, but when you look at the figure, when I look at your hotspot analysis too, we start to see something around Bridgeport Road and Number 3 Road with respect to that. And I was talking to the Staff Sergeant Major earlier, and he just made mention to the fact that they're not high-end vehicles. They're certainly the common vehicles that are utilized for whether it's joyriding or some type of property crime.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Heath, we did notice that there's been an increase of 20 thefts of auto compared to April of last year. And a lot of these thefts sometimes are vehicles that are stolen. Sometimes their vehicle could be taken without owner's consent that get reported as stolen. Sometimes they could be rental vehicles that are overdue, and sometimes they get reported stolen. So obviously 20 is a little high for this month, but there's nothing which has stood out in terms of seriousness or some organized crime level targeting these vehicles. And this is something that's being discussed at our monthly crime reduction meetings, and we have identified the areas where there's been a concentration of these vehicles where they've been taken from. So we'll be addressing that.
Is there any indication at all I know you track vehicles recovered, whether they're recovered in Richmond or they're recovered over the bridge in Vancouver.
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, we typically have a certain percentage of vehicles that are recovered locally, and some can be in the other jurisdictions, from Vancouver to Surrey or other areas.
And that just brings up my next point. And all of us received a memorandum from Mr. Warzel with respect to questions at our last community safety meeting. And I can understand some of it, and, I agree, we've got to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples in our statistical data. And we know some of the other police agencies, and not necessarily the RCMP, will look at their statistics in a bit of a different fashion than we are. We also know the National Uniform Crime reporting is it may be delayed by a few months, but it's a little more accurate. But the discussion I want to have, and I led into this auto theft part of it first. We're separated by a short Canada Line ride into Vancouver, an independent municipal. We go through a tunnel. We're in an independent municipal in Delta. So, understanding the RCMP is able to compare their statistics with their own jurisdictions. But if, for example, we were looking for some type of crime pattern, such as the theft of vehicles, such as if Vancouver, and you've done very successful shoplifting projects here in Richmond, and we know Vancouver has done several too. So I guess what I was looking for is a little something more. Is there a trend going on, around us here in Richmond that we should be cognizant of, so we can put whatever barriers in place to prevent it from happening, or some comparison that we can utilize? Just wanted your comments on that.
Through the chair to Councillor Heath, first, with respect to crime stats between RCMP and different police agencies, I did look a little further into that with our senior crime analyst and our supervisor with our crime analyst section, and she comes to us with a blended experience from BPD, 13 years, and RCMP. And I was informed that there are many factors that form in compiling these stats to ensure that they're comparable, and they can differ by jurisdictions, by cities, demographics, population, and different agencies may have different coding systems and different scoring systems. Some cities are hub cities where we see an influx of people coming in due to big events. So that's sort of some of the factors, and different municipalities have different policies and procedures that they use in developing their stats. With the RCMP, and even recently, with Surrey's population growing at such a rapid pace, that impacts the crime numbers as well. According to our analysts, that a growth in population can lower the crime rates. So in our subsequent reports to Community Safety Committee, we'll be removing Surrey out of that, because even Surrey will not give us a fair comparable rates, and we'll be adding Langley there. So that's sort of the rationale and how our analysts develop those stats. And with respect to crime trends and working with our partner agencies, we have a couple of committees that we actively participate in, and one being the Regional Operational Police Managers Committee, ROPMC. We have an inspector from Richmond RCMP who's a co-chair of that committee, along with a municipal police partner. At these meetings, which are done on a monthly basis, members from the RCMP and from all municipal police units gather together to discuss strategic initiatives, patterns and trends that their communities are experiencing, identifying prolific offenders, sharing intelligence, and also exploring funding initiatives for JFOs. In addition to that, we also have a committee called the Multi-Jurisdictional Offender Management Team, MJOM. This committee is comprised of senior RCMP and municipal unit commanders. And the purpose is quite similar to the previous committee where they discuss trends, patterns, information sharing, essentially daily intelligence sharing, and it's proved to be quite effective. And just as an example, just recently, there was a break and enter committed in Richmond. A suspect was identified, and the information, the footage, the picture of this individual was shared to the MJOM committee, which is over 300 police officers. And a member from Abbotsford PD was able to identify the suspect here. And then through the assistance of Harrison RCMP, we were able to arrest. So it's powerful committees, and so they're, we are seeing the results. But even through retail theft, we work with VPD's, the anti-fencing unit, mail theft unit. So we are in constant contact with our partners in Vancouver. We work with Transit, we work other police agencies, we have worked with Delta. So that's, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I didn't expect anything less from you, mind you. Maybe just, take it away, and if we can have, a little paragraph on, trend analysis or trends that occurred in the previous month and how that affected Richmond in any way, that would be helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, and through the chair, thanks for the report. And it's interesting how the numbers fluctuate so differently month to month, but most things are within the average range, except the auto theft that Councillor Heed pointed out. I was curious about the drug offenses, 41 drug offenses, double the number from the previous month. Is this a typical thing where it's the airport busts that are happening the most, or is it actually also a factor of the recriminalization where we're getting people on the streets that are having drug?
To the chair, to Councillor Galanders, we see a significant number of drug seizures at the airport. Mm-hmm. And that depends on the traffic volume at the airport. And in this period, 66% of the drugs were intercepted or seized at the airport through CBSA and other partners. And there was another 10% within the airport through different reasons, and then the rest within the city, right? And DCRIM hasn't had any. I mean, DCRIM has seen our drug seizure numbers go down, so we're not seeing that has any impact here.
Okay. And just one more, noticing that the shoplifting has a bit of a decrease, but still an increase over last year. But I know you guys have been working really hard on that. But then commercial break and enters are up again. So I'm just wondering how those two relate to each other, and or is there a similar type of program being run to help the commercial break-in side of things?
Yes, it's through the chair to Councillor Galanders. Sometimes it's just difficult to, measure these because you can have one or two offenders, or you can have a group of offenders in a month, and we see an increase in our crime stats. But when I look at commercial B&E and I look at year-to-date, we are down
Okay.
34 incidents. We're down 26% for this year. So for this reporting period, we did have 31 commercial break-in enters. Previous reporting, we had 14. But overall, we continue to work with our property crime unit through our crime reduction initiatives, with our partners. And when it's prolific offenders, sometimes it just takes a little longer, to work on them because it involves different techniques, it takes time. So we'll stay on top of that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion? All in favor? Thanks. And officers' report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to quickly talk about our 77th Salmon Festival Canada Day celebrations. Thanks to Chief Jim Wishlove and his team and our city's staff, bylaws, and many others who were there to provide security and safety for everyone who attended. It's over 100,000 people were there. It was a wonderful event. I just want to just highlight some of the things that, we experienced. We had a robust presence there, and the event went quite smoothly. There were 5 children who were lost, but I imagine there were probably in ice cream lineups for 30 minutes to an hour, and parents were missing them, but they were all found. And there was some medical calls associated to elderly people requiring assistance. And so again, with our ambulance folks and RFR, that support and that response time was readily available. We had a couple youth fights, and that was dealt with quickly. Couple intoxications, couple loud parties, and at the end, we had some youths lighting fireworks and at the McMath School. But once police attended, the youths dispersed, and so it was overall, it was a good evening. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Item number 6A, we have the pedestrian report that came up in council yesterday. I don't know if we have any staff that, and my apologies to the Chief Superintendent, I didn't pass this report on to you. So what do you guys want to do with this? Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thanks very much. I think, I'm not sure how you want to handle this. We said we'd bring it here for information and others. When I read it very, very carefully and word for word, and one of their items is to have vision zero in terms of pedestrian fatalities and what have you. In the future and what have you. And I'm not sure how that means as a target, but I believe our first responders are already doing that and have been doing that all along. And whether we need to come out and say it or not is another thing. I always cringe a little bit when we say, because as you know, we're a nuclear-free zone. Putin will never send a missile to Richmond because we've been there that way since 1977 and declared it. But
Bravo to that council.
yeah, that's right. Bravo to that council the day. So when you put those things out, slogans out, sometimes it goes to bite you. I know Burnaby supposedly has one, and Vancouver has Transportation 2040. So, and it is our goal, no matter what the incident is, we want safety and we want to keep people safe. So we want to move towards zero traffic related fatalities. Just look at our reports today and see what we do. But I think we could say to the committee or this group that brought it forward, we've at least discussed it and we put it on the agenda. I think that's probably one. The other, they want to expand the distracted drivers program enforcements, et cetera. Well, when I look on this, I love the work that our people are doing. I think we've had the finest distract driving program in the province, so on it. And I just actually had a question, and I'm not sure you can answer that, and excuse my ignorance. I haven't taken the driver's exam or written the book, from the book for a long time, but they've said here, new safe passing regulations, a minimum distance of 1 meter that drivers must maintain when passing cyclists and other vulnerable road. What does that mean? I hope they gave us more than 1 meter.
I think that came in June. We actually received a memo about that, and there was some public notification, I believe, but we can send you another copy. But I don't know what the rest of the public received, so
Yeah,
if
well,
that's your
it.
point.
And well, I'm trying to go with and address the 4 issues that they brought up. And those are the issues they brought up. And I think given the group that did it, came from the Poverty Response Group. They dealt with surveys by organization and a number of very key organizations, and had a number of responses, 226. And I think it's just a concern for general safety in our community. And I could pass this on to the RCMP.
Yeah, there's the other part that they had submitted that's in our package as well.
But
But
I was thinking
We can
we
forward-
talked from the presentation.
we can
yeah.
forward both pieces.
Well, let's forward both pieces, the RCMP, for information and addressing if indeed they need to be addressed. So I think, as chair, deal with it however you wish.
Okay, Councillor Heed?
Yes, I'd like to go a little bit further on this because, and I'm glad Mr. B is here also, because there was mentioned by Councillor Wolf that he wanted Public Works to even look at this. And it's all about preventing the pedestrian from becoming a fatality. And I think we have to be very, very cognizant of that. And I think other police organizations have done that. And I'm sure the chief is here. And what we would probably want is if there were some locations that engineering finds that they could do some work to increase the pedestrian safety there so they don't become a victim. And I think we also wanted to look at, maybe the chief can comment on that, on our priorities with the RCMP, whether we had pedestrian safety as one of the priorities. And I think the mayor made mention of that last night when the Poverty Coalition presented this. And it could have been any other organizations, coming forward. And we know when the daylight savings time changes come into effect, people are out there wearing dark clothing and that. Those are constant reminders that we have to put in place, whether it's a program that's done through the city or through the RCMP. And I know the RCMP does some stuff in this particular area, but I think we need to do a little more. And, I'd love to hear Mr. B's comments and the chief's comments with respect to how we could improve pedestrian safety here in Richmond.
Thank you.
Hi, through the chair to Councillor Heed. No, absolutely, we're already doing a lot of this stuff, and we actually did a report on this last year at about the same time when we had the similar presentation that shows that, while we don't specifically think that Vision Zero is what our declaration is, we share a lot of common activities with Vision Zero. And we've got a report on that from last year. But, most importantly with the safety aspect, we are already doing a lot of work to improve pedestrian and vehicle safety, where we have identified the highest incidents are through our Top 20 intersection program. We've talked about the channelized right turns a few times, and those are key contributors to those types of incidents. And we do have programs that are, I think they've already replaced 3 of them, and I think there's 5 more in the works. So there are a number of programs and thing that we have going on right now that do align with Vision Zero and do align with the things that these folks are saying.
And through the chair to Councillor Heath, if I may add, road safety is one of our top 4 priorities for the city, and pedestrian safety is part of that priority. We have ongoing social media campaigns, utilizing our volunteers, partners with ICBC, our road safety unit, whether it's handing out reflectors depending on the change of season and the length of days, listening to concerns from the community. Just recently, someone had expressed concerns about a high school where the kids were crossing the road without a marked crosswalk to go to Tim Hortons. So that was brought to the city's concern to make sure that, you know, there's proper lighting and crosswalks are installed. And yeah, so we have ongoing campaigns through our social media, through other mediums of communications, and always promoting pedestrian safety and other traffic-related safeties in the city.
And certainly that's good to hear because, you know, it's already down as one of the priorities and what we have here. But when the example of the new Tim Hortons that opened up over on Jacobs near Cambie, and the kids go there for all that. For doing something like that, you know, this is where if it's identified by the police that the city works collectively
They
in order
have
to address it.
a crosswalk there, correct? Because as a condition of getting the Tim Hortons, they had to put in a crosswalk. And so what I'm hearing is that the kids aren't actually crossing at the crosswalk. Is that correct?
They were not crossing when the complaint
Yeah,
came to
there
us.
is a crosswalk specially for that because that was considered that would happen. So now you can only lead a horse to water.
But we've corrected the problem, have we not? Or is it still the ongoing problem where the kids just aren't paying attention to the crosswalk?
To the chair, to Councillor Heath, I'll have to confirm that. I'll have to follow up on that. to
Okay,
confirm.
we also do have a nifty $50 jaywalking fine that's available to be handed out by our bylaw that we brought in a number of years ago and as a solution to something.
So as far as I'm concerned, you know, good for the Poverty Coalition for bringing this forward. And I think it just goes to show that, you know, this is a concern here in Richmond, and it's great that we have engineering and transportation. And it's great that we have the police in tune with making our roads safer here, and pedestrian safety is part of our priorities.
Thank you. You may as well just stay, perhaps Councillor Galanders has a similar question.
Yeah.
Councillor Galanders?
Thank you through the chair, yeah. And I appreciate that report being put together by that committee as well. And, you know, I personally know 3 young people that have been hit with life-altering injuries. And my son was almost hit in a crosswalk a couple weeks ago. So I would like us to see if we can improve it. I would like to see us move towards adopting the 2 recommendations in the report, but I need more information. So I don't know if, you know, we can discuss it here today and then you'll discuss it in Public Works. I see the first item, adopting the Vision Zero as a statement being more of a Public Works thing that would come about. And then the item 2, the distracted driving, being more of a RCMP thing. I'd like to know, and I don't know how we can know, maybe it could come back in a memo, how many pedestrian incidences have been connected to distracted driving? You know, maybe there's something that we can look into. Because if it is always a factor, because I know that when the phone thing first came out a few years ago, everybody was so vigilant about it. I mean, you would see, you know, people were all talking about it, it was on the radio, it's like you can't touch your phone, and now all I see is people on their phones constantly. So I'd like to know if it's been a factor in any accidents, you know, even one is too many, right? And as far as the Vision Zero goes, I'd like to know what the difference is between what we're doing and what a Vision Zero statement is. Like, what is it? Is it just a title? Is it a specific set of goals that we're not doing, or are we doing? And if we're already doing them, then why couldn't we just declare that we're Vision Zero? The committee's worked on it for a year and they'd like us to do that.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Glanders, certainly, like, we do so many things that are in alignment with it, and it is a kind of a semantic piece. Like, one of the biggest pieces that Vision Zero asks for is for reduced speed limits in neighborhoods and things like that, and we're doing that. We're one of the few municipalities that are doing that. Even the people that have signed on with Vision Zero, like, we compare really, really well to them. I guess where it kind of falls apart for us a bit is the declaration is that you're going to get to zero within a certain time period. And it's a very short time period. It's 10 years. And we feel that that's a little bit misleading. We think that we should always be aiming to get down to as few as we can and always be aiming for zero. But I don't think that we can set a target of zero in 10 years. We certainly can if council would like to, but at the end of the day, I think that would be a difficult target, and I think it's misleading, and it would be, it's hard to see anyone actually getting there in that short a time period. But I do think that all of the things that we are doing, and in particular the 30 kilometers areas and stuff like that, are huge contributors towards getting towards zero. And getting towards zero is something that us and a number of other municipalities speak about this as, instead of Vision Zero, more as getting towards zero.
Perhaps there's a statement we can come up with, that's a Richmond statement, that Richmond aims for this in all the things that we do, and it doesn't have to be that exact buzzword, but something that we come up with on our own.
Absolutely.
And if I may, to Councillor Glanders, I totally agree with your remarks. It is somewhat misleading because when I examine our fatalities from 2019 and to present day, there's been 7. And sometimes it's really unfortunate that some of these fatalities have occurred as a result of pedestrian misjudgment or error.
Yeah.
Crossing when it's dark, not paying attention to the road. So, so those are the unfortunate incidents that occur where it's the motorist not responsible, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may make a couple comments, I did also look up some pedestrian fatalities, and from 2012 to 2021, we had 26 in those 9 years. So it was just higher than 2 a year. And Superintendent Dave Chon is now telling us it's around 1 or 2 a year. And it seems to me that our infant mortality rate's actually higher than that here in Richmond. So, and our teen suicide rate is about that as well. So, like, while they're unfortunate, our teen suicide rate's probably more preventable than pedestrian fatalities. And while we'd like everyone to be able to drive well in Richmond and not have accidents, I don't know that necessarily stating it in our OCP, of course we want 0 fatalities. Like, who doesn't? But then if we don't do it, what are we being held to, and what did we do wrong? It's like, did we do something wrong? And, we don't want any unfortunate and we also don't want to keep saying this for every single thing. We've already said it, that we're trying to end poverty, and then we saw our poverty numbers and they went up. They're down as a percentage of number of people in Richmond, but they're still up in general. So we kind of have that weird thing. We're a growing community and things are changing and they will change. And I think we've done a lot of things. Like, we just approved a bunch of changes to those right turn that people don't stop at and just continue to. And that's where a lot of the conflict points happen, right? So we're cutting down our conflict, like, we're actually moving towards those things, and we're trying to do it in a paced measure so that we can afford to do all those changes and also not have the entirety of Richmond under construction so that people are racing around the construction. So I think we're kind of in a weird point. But it would be interesting if we were gonna send this forward at all, or if we just want to accept this for information. If we were going to ask for more information, to just have a few of those stats on, what are pedestrian fatalities, and is it worth changing policies or adding policy, or is it will it make a difference? I think everyone's working towards that, and I think that's where we are in Richmond. We've been doing a lot of things and making a lot of changes and adjustments to make it safer here in Richmond.
If I could just comment on it. I've attended many fatalities, as I'm sure the chief has in his times. It's so sad when you see an elderly person that was crossing midway between the crosswalk and the corner being struck by a bus and killed because they were trying to catch a bus. When you see a child on a bike struck and killed, it is very, very tragic, and it affects all the responding officers, all the responding firefighters. It just, so anything we can do, and yes, we're having stretch goals. That's what it's all about, is to stop it. I don't think, we can be dismissive on this. We've always got to do whatever we can to do. So I just want to make that point. The Poverty Coalition brought this forward. Like I said, any group could have brought this forward. And whether we're going to call it, zero, whatever, that's what we're going to strive for. And, that as a council, I think that's what we should be doing. We cannot throw up our hands and say, it's inevitable, people are going to get killed. I guess I'm looking for a little bit more empathy in how we respond to this.
Councillor McNulty?
Yeah, I think we've taken it very seriously. We know how to address it. Maybe we could ask staff to address each of these issues and come back to us with that. And outline further how we can strive forward to ultimately get to the goal that we want. Obviously, even one is one too many. So that, but I think we need to reassure the public that we are doing some things. Mr. B says we are doing things. The chief says we are doing these things. And the other thing is missing and is also more responsibility, and I'm glad he said it, is misjudgment of individuals. I harp when people are going down with these one-wheel or two-wheelers down the side out here with earmuffs on and no helmet and flip-flops and
They're not a pedestrian.
yeah, going in and out of traffic and wheeling on and onto the sidewalk and back on. There's an educational thing that we need to do there. Hopefully, those individuals don't make a mistake. But in my opinion, they make a mistake before they start by not being prepared to get onto and have the right equipment to do that kind of activity. So anyhow, I'd like to further refer it. I think it should be brought up at Public Works and further discussions of how we can mitigate whatever we are, because we are serious.
So for clarity, the referral is to look at the recommendations, which were: 1, set a target in Richmond's official city plan that envisions 0 pedestrian deaths in the future. And recommendation number 2, model after or expand the distracted drivers program to enforce the pedestrians' right of way. But I don't know that we have anything to do with the drivers program, but okay. So is that your motion? Okay, because those were the recommendations that they put forward. Okay.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add with respect to the safety initiatives, the programs that we are doing from the police side. There's education at the school level. Our members are engaging with our seniors as well in educating them. Our officers are also engaging with newcomers to Canada, because usually when you have people coming here, they don't know the rules of the road. So we are there educating them how to cross the road safely and to know the signs and signals. There are safety sessions, whether it's e-bike or, other safety-related stuff. So we are leveraging on our different languages, media here, Omni and others, to communicate that message to a diverse audience in the language that will, because we know that a large population watches those ethnic media sources. So we want to make sure that messaging is communicated to them, to those medium as well, for safety related.
And let's not forget your wildly successful video that you put out on social media with 10 million views last year on pedestrian safety.
Right. We hopefully we can up that this year.
Okay, so we have the referral to look at those two items and comment back. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. Managers' reports. Have we got any managers' reports? Okay, well then we have a motion to adjourn. Thank you. And we have a closed meeting. So for all of you not involved in the closed meeting, thank you very much for coming out. And I'm sorry we're going to miss you. Sorry you can't join us.